Welcome, y'all, to Just Jelly Unfiltered. Are you looking for conversations that are raw and authentic? Then you're in the right place. It's more than just a podcast. It's a community. Now, here's your host, Jen.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Just Jelly Unfiltered. If this is your first time listening, welcome home. I am your host, Jen, and we are becoming besties one episode at a time. And this is going to be a doozy today. I've got my energy drink in hand because I'm going to need it. I've got my laptop, as I talked about in the previous episode. I've always winged it, but my memory just isn't quite the way it used to be going through midlife. So that's why I thought this season is the perfect season to talk about all those struggles we have with midlife, right? Like, we're all dealing with it and not enough people talk about it. But before I start an episode, I always like to check in with you guys. How are you doing? I can't believe we're already to the second week of August. Most kids have either gone back to school or are preparing to start school shortly. I don't know. This year just feels a little bit different. My daughter is in her second year of college. She's dual enrolled and she is a senior in high school. And she decided she wanted to go back to school shopping with her friends, which completely fine. I get it. As they get older, they don't want mom. They want mom's credit card. But it was a tradition I started with my kids from the time they enter school. I did it with my mom. Every year we'd go back to school shopping. I would get my new shoes, clothes, everything I needed to do till Christmas because I wasn't getting anything else till Christmas. So it was like a mini Christmas in August for me. And so I just always did that with my kids, and I have to say, I'm missing those Target runs, the picking out your aesthetic, what's cool this year. Is it going to be like a color theme? Are we doing Blue's Clues when they were younger? Like, it was just always that excitement of really kind of getting to see a little bit of that shift of how they were growing up, what their aesthetic was going to be. It was just those happy moments. I don't know. I even did it with my stepchildren before the summer would end. I'd always at least take them back and do a little bit of back to school shopping with them. It helps that I love to shop, right? I did want to take a moment to say that because of you guys, Just Jelly was able to help several families with their needs to get their kids back into school with lunch boxes, backpacks, school supplies, shoes, that kind of thing. And honestly, the giving back is one of my favorite parts of doing this podcast. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's because you're listening, your donations, that we were able to do that. And it really does just fill my heart with gratitude to be able to give back to the community. And honestly, it's one of the best parts outside of getting to connect with you guys because you guys truly have become my besties, my best friends. I tell you guys everything. I get the DMs, the emails. I love it. And it truly does just make my heart happy. Okay. So let's get into the episode just a little bit. Let's talk about it. I feel like I'm the perfect person to talk about this because I have gone through several friendship breakups. I've moved around. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I've moved around 13 times. And no, I'm not a military brat. We were just climbing the corporate ladder and jobs took us here, there, and everywhere. So I had to learn how to adapt, make new friends, learning that when I would move away, out of mind, out of sight, they necessarily weren't going to continue being my friends when I moved, which was hard for me. So I feel like I've cried in my pillow over this topic more times than I really care to admit. So I feel like I am the perfect person to talk about friendships in midlife, what that looks like. So have you ever just sat back and wondered, is it just me? Am I the only one struggling with friendships? Why are adult friendships so complicated? Because I hear a lot of people talking about it now, of the struggle of the group chats have gone silent. The coffee breaks or the coffee meetups are not getting rescheduled. And that can be complicated. It can be hurtful. And not a lot of people understand that sometimes because we're all different. So I want to just start with the basic of let's define what friendship really is, because I think throughout the years that's gotten lost. Our definitions has changed. And I think when we're meeting new friends, we should kind of clarify that of what that looks like. What is their expectations? What are their needs? So let's just kind of go through that for a minute. For me, my definition is fairly simple. We learned it in grade school, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's kind of how I've always tried to live my life. I'm not going to say everybody lives by that rule, but that's where I would like to start at. But I'm still going to give you Webster's definition, okay? And I am going to read it. Webster defines it as a deep and meaningful connection between two people that mutually trust, care, respect, and understand one another. So at its core, it's just consistently showing up for one another, which let me just tell you can be a struggle within itself, because some days it's hard enough to just show up for myself, let alone showing up for someone else, because we're going through midlife. We're moms, we're wives, we're girlfriends, we're dating, we're divorcing, we have kids, we have parents. All those things get tied up into our friendships at this phase in life. It's caring enough about a person to make an emotionally safe place. That's scary. That's scary. Being vulnerable is scary for a lot of us. But our friendships need to be a safe place, judgment-free zone where we can talk about anything. I used to think, oh my God, I needed this huge group of friends, but now I've understood and learned. If you didn't listen to our friendship episode in season 2 with Sabrina, the friendship coach, go back and do so. She did a phenomenal job. But if you have one really good friend in your lifetime, consider yourself lucky. And I do. I have actually 2 really good friends that I know I could call at any time, even if we've not spoken to one another in months, and we would pick right back up just like we never skipped a beat, which is rare. I thought that was just, I didn't value it enough. Let me just put it that way. I'm learning. I'm your perfectly imperfect podcast host. We're learning together. The other thing is I am very much an overdoer. So it's got to be a give and a receive. The problem is I didn't realize I was making an exception because I was saying, oh, I'm too much. I'm different. So they don't have to do as much as me or X, Y, or Z. Instead of meeting them where they were, I was, okay, this is a little bit off topic, but I've always been that person that felt like I needed to win someone's love, earn their love, per se. So when I say that, that means I feel like I'm an overdoer or an overachiever. And so I didn't have expectations for my friends to do what I was doing because I'd already labeled it, right? But in reality, our friendships should be mutual. They should be a give and take. And when you have that mutual respect, it really does change the dynamic. And it's not just about, calling each other on the phone or taking a picture together. It's sharing in those experiences, whether it's wine nights with Netflix and laughing your ass off, or crying together in your robes because you just went through a breakup, or on the back patio because, well, you don't even feel like putting on makeup. It's sharing those moments together. It's also realizing that our friends are not going to stay the same. You have to be willing to love that person enough to grow with them, because they're going to be, I'm not the same version of myself. I've been friends with my friend Kelly, which I've talked about her on the podcast before. I've been friends with her as old, my daughter just turned 16. So almost 16, well, over 16 years, because I was pregnant with my daughter when I moved in next door, and we became best friends because she said, I saw you get out of the car in heels and you were pregnant. I knew right then you were my kind of people. So we've been friends that long. But now we've gone through phases where we've had our breakups, or what I thought was breakups. Hey, we are never getting rid of one another. We're going to be friends forever. That's what I've told her. But we've had our moments where we put our friendship on pause. We don't talk to each other every day like we used to, but I will say she did teach me how to be a better friend. When we were in really close and establishing our friendships, she would text me, check up on me. How are you doing? Good morning. And at first, I remember this very distinctly. I was driving my oldest daughter to school, and I got a text from her. And it was like, hey, beautiful, I hope you have a great day. And I'm thinking, she just called me beautiful. I had never had another woman really speak positivity into me. And so when she did that, I was like, wow, that's really what a friendship should be like. It should be, hey, beautiful, congratulations, you're wonderful, have a great day. Like, we should be checking in with our friends. And I really like Mel Robbins, her podcast. I listened to her episode on friendships, and she was talking about how her and her friends who are long distance will do like voice recordings, checking in, because it does do something different hearing your friend's voice. So that's just like a little bonus tip there for you. But it's really, friendship is hard work. If it was easy, we would have, everybody would be doing it. Like, it's not simple. In a world full of noise, with social media the way it is, input from other friends within the group, if you have a large group of friends, it's really just finding someone who will choose you and you choosing them. Like, it's a choice. You're not married. You have no legal obligation to this person. You aren't siblings. So it's really choosing that person and choosing them again and again. And the key word there that I really want to talk about is choosing, because at the core of really any relationship, it's a choice. I tell my kids all the time when they're talking about getting married or relationships, that you have to love a person enough to love them even when you dislike them, because there's going to be moments when you dislike them. When something is going on or something is happening, you're going to have those moments. So you really need to make sure that you're choosing wisely. Same with our friendships. You need to choose wisely, because there's going to be times when that person's going to get on your nerves or say something that you don't agree with. And you still have to love them enough to know who they are in their heart, at their core. It's knowing someone at their core and knowing that, well, they didn't really mean to offend me or hurt my feelings. When I was getting ready to do this episode, through my preparation, I was talking with my therapist, and yes, I have a therapist, about this situation. And she said, and I was talking to her about like really talking about choosing someone. And she said, the reason why that is so important is because as we choose one another, each time, it lets the other person know that we value them. We value their friendship. We value who they are, their opinions, their thoughts. And we're willing to grow with them as that changes. And that just builds upon the relationship. Because when I was talking to her, she was telling me, she was comparing, because I tell you, I'm very visual, of like building a house. You have to start with the foundation. Then you put your walls up. Then you put in the windows and the doors. Then it's the plumbing and so on and so forth. You see where I'm going with this? So every time you do and you choose them, you're putting up a wall. You're making the foundation. The foundation is spending time together, communicating your needs and wants. You're really laying the foundation. And then each time we choose one another, we're building a room in our house, and we're putting in the windows and the walls and the doors. And it makes the other person feel valued and important. And it's not just a habit or an obligation. And you can see that because it's happening over and over again. Okay, so we've talked about what friendship is. We've talked about the do's and the don'ts, how we shouldn't be comparing ourselves. There's room enough at the table for everyone. Just a brief little recap here. And how really it's just loving a person enough to choose them even when they mess up, because everybody's going to mess up. No one's perfect. But let's talk about why it gets so messy as we go through midlife. Okay, our friendships get messy through midlife, first of all, because our hormones are out of whack, ladies. Like, I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know what was going on. I don't know. I was crying. I was upset. I even went to the doctor. Finally, they were like, okay, we need to get your hormones balanced back out. I did a whole panel full of tests and went through the whole process and finally got that all straightened out. But I am not going to lie. There was a moment there when I thought I was losing my mind. So our hormones are everywhere. And then just put on that, you have life. You go through different phases of life. You have divorce, single, married, relocation, parenting, you change careers, maybe you're struggling with your health, maybe you have aging parents. Friendships are really pushed to their brink, to their margin when you're going through these phases, right? Because you have so much other stuff on your plate. It's very easy to forget about our friends that's been there for us, or our friends who have done things for us. And then what happens is each time they feel forgotten, it's creating this barrier between us. Life in midlife is messy, and I really want to normalize talking about that for women. Midlife is messy, and if you feel like your life is a mess, you're not alone. We're in it together, because let's just be real. Most of us have been ghosted. We've all been misunderstood, and we've all probably at this point in our lives been through a friendship breakup, and we've been deeply hurt by someone we cared about, right? And I'm guilty. I've ghosted people. It's not because we don't care. It's because we didn't know how to communicate. Communication to me is the key in any relationship, whether it's friendship, dating, with our children. I say that on repeat. Learning how to communicate with ourselves, our loved ones, is so important. And I have been really working on that through my therapy, because I wasn't always great with my words. I'm honest to a fault. I used to come with a warning label of, hey, if you don't want the truth, don't ask me, because if you ask me if that looks good, I'm going to tell you no. Like, I am not going to sugarcoat it, but I have learned to soften through my mid-age. I want to dive a little bit deeper into why it's so hard as adults to find friends, and more than just surface level friends, because I'm not into surface level friends. I know that works for some people, but for me, I value my time, because I do have chronic illnesses, I have a family, and I do have so much going on that if I am spending time with you, I want to build upon that. I want it to be a building block. I want it to be a friendship. I want it to be something that has some about it. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. Here we go again. Like maybe I should ask my therapist about that. But my best answer is that most people are guarded. I know I am. If you've been hurt, used, lied to, betrayed, or even forgotten, like it makes us put up our guard. I feel like as we go through midlife, people are less likely to open up and be emotionally vulnerable because it's scary, right? Like, okay, you've been lied to, you've gone through a friendship breakup. Let's talk about this. Like you've gone through a friendship breakup, right? So when you've gone through that, it has caused you to be guarded and put your walls up because you don't want it to happen again. You know, it's easier to stay surface level than to have unfiltered conversations and really dive deep into what's bothering you or what you need. Often people don't want to face their own issues. They have issues that they just don't want to deal with. They're like, I'm already at this age. I'm too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And they don't want to deal with it. And they're not looking to change or grow. They are happy and content or right where they are. But if they are committing to a friendship, and especially if you're in a friendship where you are changing and growing, that can be uncomfortable for them. I can say that going through my recent friendship breakup, it did. It left me very guarded. It isolated me. And then it actually put me on what I like to call like high alert. So when I was meeting new people, I'm like, oh my God, she's friendship bombing me. She's calling me every single day. It's like red flag, pull away. I had all these triggers that I didn't even realize that it was causing within me because of the friendship breakup I had gone through. And I think at midlife, we've all gone through those scenarios and it causes us to be standoffish, less likely to reach out. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to feel rejected. So we're just like, okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, it's just, it can be there's just a lot of layers to it, ladies. Like, it's not easy. I would love to sit here and tell you this is going to be the answer to all your problems, but anybody who tells you that is lying to them. What I can tell you is if you're willing to work on yourself and you're willing to grow with others and work with them, you can find some fabulous friends and your friends will find you and you will find your tribe. Lastly, like let's just talk about the fact that in 2025, social media has completely transformed friendships, right? Like both positives and negatively. I would say it has created this boundary of you can now have virtual best friends. So if you're introverted, it's kind of already feeling that like void that you need of just having just somebody you just want to talk to. You don't necessarily even want to go out with anybody. So people are finding that online. So this was a statistic that I thought was kind of neat. This new generation, my daughter's generation that's coming up, 74% of teens reported feeling more connected with their friends online, and 63% says social media gives them the space to express their creativity and really be their true self. So they are connecting with people who already know who they are, have similar interests and likes and dislikes. So unfortunately, it seems like a lot of friendships are shifting. I mean, we have Bumble BFF. I know that I'm on TikTok and it is like the new dating app. I've seen speed dating on there. I've met some of my really good friends through doing this podcast, through social media. So I could completely see how it would be easier to be friends online because hey, you can tell them what you want to tell them. They can tell you what, it's not so it's kind of surface level. A lot of people are keeping it there. Lastly, let's talk about this myth that we believe, ladies, going through midlife, right? We believe that everybody already has their circle, so I don't even need to try. Why should I try? I remember a couple months back, I met a new friend, and I remember sitting there and them telling me, I never thought you would want to hang out with me. I thought you had a ton of friends, and like, who would I be to her? And so I just never reached out. And I'm thinking, girl, I've been sitting at home by myself. I hadn't had a group chat in 6 months and I hadn't been out to lunch in I don't know how long. So like I could definitely do with a wine date and have someone I go to the beach with and hang out with. And she's like, oh wow, really? Like I see you online. Let's note that when you're seeing people online, you're seeing what they want you to see. Not that these people that I am posting with are not my friends, but they're not calling me either. Like it's a different dynamic when you're friends with people online. And I've changed my definition of a friend. I used to think, oh, you call me a friend, we're friends. I'm your ride or die. And that's not what that means. And that's not what that means to a majority of women. I feel like that People talk about love being the most overused word in the English language. I agree. I think in friendships, it's besties and friends. People throw those terms out way too easy without really knowing the impact it's going to have on the other person. Because I'm a words person. I'm like, you tell me something, I'm going to do it. I had a friend tell me, she's like, you've encouraged me. She's like, I've never met anyone like you. If you say you're going to do it, you do it. You sign the check, you don't even hesitate, you don't blink your eye, you do what you say you're going to do. And I just thought everybody was that way. I thought, if you say you're going to do it, you do it. I mean, what good is it in saying it if you're not going to do it? Like, I don't know, but we have to, I guess I say all that to say is, ladies, have patience with yourself, have patience with the people that you're trying to make friends with. Don't believe everything that you see on social media, because the people that you see online parading their lives, they're still hurting. They still need friends. They're human. They're just like you or I. They're just trying to make it through life and do the best that they can without screwing everything up. Here's the hard truth, ladies, and I know I'm just as guilty, and I probably overshare a lot of times in my friendships, but often people avoid those tough conversations because they don't want to hurt feelings, they don't want to feel rejected, they don't want to come off as too sensitive or too much. So instead of being honest, we silence ourselves. And that silence builds resentment and can often damage our friendships. We all bring in, like I said, different definitions into the relationship, how often to check in with one another, what support looks like. We all have different needs and wants, how to handle space and boundaries, because a lot of people have boundaries in place in their friendships, but they don't always communicate that. When those expectations clash and they're not talked about, tension rises, and again, it's going to cause a collapse in the friendships. A lot of us never really learned how to express ourselves, ask for what we need, or repair a misunderstanding. I've had misunderstandings with people, and I'm all about repairing the friendship. Usually, hey, you say you're sorry, I'll say I'm sorry. I'm good to go. Like, I'm easygoing. But not everybody is like that. And repairing a friendship can be difficult. And I've told you, I've gone through my friendship breakups. Even me and my best friend, we've had our issues and our struggles, and we've had to find our way back to one another. As life changes, our careers, kids, family, our bandwidth for deep connection shifts. Communication suffers when we feel overwhelmed or guilty. The same friend we used to be, we may not be able to be that same friend. And so just acknowledging how that changes. When I was sick and I was in bed and I couldn't do anything, I was not a good friend. I couldn't be a good friend. But had I communicated that better, me and Kelly probably wouldn't have went 2 years without talking. We went 2 whole years and didn't talk at all. But it was because I couldn't keep up. So the truth bomb is, good communication in a friendship isn't about always saying the perfect thing. It's about being willing to say the hard things with love, grace, and desire to stay connected. I always say we shouldn't shoot for perfection. We should shoot for just being us and trying. You get an A for effort, right? I do want to take a moment and pause and kind of go back for just a minute. Hang in there with me, okay, y'all? I just want to say that, and I want to say this with love, okay? I want to say it with love. Talk to your friend. Talk to them. If you have someone in your life that maybe the friendship is on pause, maybe you ghosted them in the past, maybe you hurt someone in the past, talk to them. I was not given that opportunity. I did text with them. There was no desire for a reconnection. I could just tell through the text messages. But don't ghost them. And don't just fade out without a word. Don't go silent and call it peace, because that's not healing. That's a trauma response, ladies. Okay? I do say that with love. And while you're protecting yourself, you might also unintentionally be causing trauma and wounds for someone else. Someone that at one point you called a friend or that you loved. I know, because I've lived it. I've been there and done that. This is why healing is so important for healthy, long-lasting friendships. And it helps for us to develop good communication. Okay, I said that with love. Please, 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 if you don't hear anything else from this episode, hear that. Let's start talking to one another. Let's start communicating with each other. Let's let one another know we're not alone. We're in this together. And even if it's not a reconnection, let's at least try not to pile on the plate of trauma, hurt. Let's not do those things. Let's heal, communicate, and let's try to have healthy, even if it's surface level. If you are hanging out with someone and you decide it's not for you, I had rather someone call me up and say, hey, I think you're a great person. I love what you're doing, or I love that we went out to have dinner, but we just don't see eye to eye. I had rather genuinely have that conversation than I had someone just ghost me or slowly fade or just vanish from my life. Okay, I don't even like to say this because I really don't, but it is a lesson that I learned through my friendship episode that I did with Sabrina in season 1, that some friendships just aren't meant for a lifetime. I grew up in the South, in the heart of the South. Loyalty is huge to me. Like, I need to be able to trust you. I want to know you got my back, because I've always been told, like, the best friends you can have are those friends who protect your name when you're not standing in the room, because people are going to talk about you. And if you have that friend that will guard your name even when you're not in the room, value that person, because it's rare. So, but not all, I've learned that hard lesson that not all friendships are meant to be a lifetime. Some are seasonal. Letting go of seasonal friendships isn't a failure. That was a hard one for me. It's honoring the truth, what it was, and allowing yourself to grow and learn from it, and allowing them to grow and move on. People just sometimes grow in different directions. Sometimes you've already had your children and they're just having kids, and that changes the dynamic of the friendship, because they're going to start going into mommy play groups and mommy and me groups, and you don't have kids, so you're not going to be in those groups. And sometimes our groups of friends change, and that's okay. And I'm learning how to cope and deal with that with you. That's why I felt like this was so important of an episode to do, is because I'm learning, you're learning, we're learning together. And I just wanted you to know that you're not alone, because a lot of us have been going through these same struggles. I see it online. I hear it when I talk to other friends, even friends that are younger than me. They're struggling with it because maybe they've moved, they've relocated. Okay, so let me talk about this. 5 reasons you may still be struggling to find your people. And I am going to read these, so just bear with me, okay? I can't memorize this whole script. I wish I could. I want to be perfect, but I've learned I'm your perfectly imperfect podcast host, so that ain't going to happen. Okay, so here's 5 reasons you might be struggling still to find your people. You're grieving an old friendship you never processed, so you still have that hurt, pain, triggers. And so when you're trying to develop a new friendship, if any of those things that happened in that previous friendship is coming up in the new one, it's going to immediately trigger a red flag. You're going to be standoffish, and it's going to be complicated to build upon. You're afraid to be intimate, fear of being too much or not enough. And I can say I struggle with that, because I get told often, well, you're always dressed up, your hair always looks nice, your nails are done. Let me tell you something, ladies. Just because I look a certain way, or I want to present myself a certain way, if you want to wear your pajamas, I don't care what you look like. Wear your pajamas. You're still going to be my friend. I'm not friends with people by what they drive, what they wear, how much money they have, what they can do for me. I'm friends with that person because of their heart, their mind, their willingness to choose our friendship. So just remember that when you are comparing yourself to whoever you're wanting to be friends with, communicate that with that person, because that person probably doesn't really care what you wear, what you look like, whether you have makeup on or not. I don't have to be dressed at the same standard you're dressed at. If you're in a dress, I might be in athletic wear, or I might be in a dress and you might be in blue jeans. I don't care. I will still walk into that bar or that restaurant with you. Let's stop feeling like we have to measure up to certain expectations because society tells us that. Let's normalize just being ourselves, being who we are, dressing the way we feel like that day, doing what we want to do, and just doing us. Do you. Like, just do you. Okay, 3, you've outgrown the version of yourself and haven't rebuilt your social group yet. And when I say that, I'm kind of talking to myself because I have changed. I don't drink anymore. I don't party anymore. It doesn't even seem, I don't even get FOMO by it. It does not seem appetizing to me. I'm trying to keep my skin glowy. I'm trying to keep my health in check. And drinking and partying and staying out all night just does not become to me, and I do not have FOMO of it. So now I'm having to reshift my friend group because I want friends who want to go hiking, kayaking, go to the beach, walk, for exercise, or have puppy play dates. So you may be going through that transition period. So hang in there. It's going to get better. Another reason that you may be struggling is you're trying to connect with your mask, not your authentic self. And I just kind of talked about that before, is a lot of us, I remember being on those dating apps I remember, let's just keep it being friends. I was on Bumble BFF when I lived in Austin. It was a huge thing. A lot of people were on it, so it was a great app to meet new people. But I remember thinking, oh my God, they've said they like to run and they like to hike and they're outdoorsy and they want to go paddleboarding. And then you meet them and they're like, I hate the outdoors. And I'm thinking, well, then why the hell would you put that in your profile? Because, they want to connect with people, but they're scared to put their true self out there of, hey, I hate the outdoors, but if you like sewing, knitting, and wine nights, I'm your girl. Like, if we really, I feel like it would be easier for all of us, me included, if we would just strip it all down, take away our mask, and just tell people, this is what I like to do, this is what I want to do. And hey, I've even told people before, like, maybe you have a friend for walking, maybe you have a friend for that just likes wine nights. Maybe you have a friend that wants to just be stay at home. They're homebodies. You don't necessarily have to have one friend to meet all your needs. Maybe you need a friend for each need. You need to figure out what those needs are and then look for those. It's just like dating, ladies, because actually it's worse than dating because you're going to get intimate with this person. They're going to know your secrets. They're going to know who you are at your core. So the breakup is harder than a romantic one. Yes, I just said what I said. I feel like a friendship breakup is harder than a romantic one because guess what? When you break up with that boyfriend, who are you running to? You're running to your friend, not the boyfriend. You have a shoulder to cry on still. But when that friend and you break up, who's your shoulder to cry on? You feel lost. You feel lonely. You're like, where do I go now? Right? And that's when you're confused. You're not at peace. You've isolated. You feel solitude is safety because you have been hurt. So a lot of us retreat. I've done it. I've been at home for the past 6 months. Like, I retreated. I didn't know how to function. I didn't know what I had done wrong. I was looking at myself going, okay, now what do I need to change now in order to have a friend? And it's like, that's not our safe zone, ladies. It's our coping mechanism for the trauma that we have experienced going through a friendship breakup. And yes, a friendship breakup is trauma. It's traumatic. Like, let me just tell you, it was one of the hardest things I've been through. So I like to leave the episodes now with some affirmations. I'm all about positive energy, protecting our energy, guarding our energy at all costs. So here are 3 affirmations that I want to leave you with. Write them down so you can go back to them. Keep them where you can see them when you're feeling like you need just that reassurance that you're not alone. I release what no longer grows me, and I trust that in the right time, I will make the right connections without any pressure. Second, I am worthy of friendship that feels safe, soft, and mutual, where I don't have to shrink myself. Third, I honor the endings just as much as the beginnings, knowing they are both part of my becoming. So don't disqualify the friendships that may have ended or the new friendships that may come into your life that is seasonal. Okay, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Just Jelly Unfiltered. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Thank you for being a loyal listener. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. And I know my episodes sometimes can be a little scatterbrained and a little bit here and there. But hey, that just makes me human. Because listen, we're all going through midlife. We're all struggling and we're just in it together. And I am just trying to survive like the rest of you guys. Hey, our next episode is going to be one that you're not going to want to miss. It's Midlife Faith Crisis. And it's very interesting. I sent it to my daughter because my daughter and I have a little different perspectives on faith and being Christians and what that means. And so I sent it to her and I said, I'm really trying to make sure that I'm getting my message across of love is love. Jesus loved everyone. And she said it was a phenomenal episode, that she would listen to it. So you guys aren't going to want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribing, liking us, following us on all social media platforms at Just Jelly Unfiltered. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode because remember, the deeper we dive, the sweeter it gets. And until next time, stay sweet out there, y'all. I love you.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Just Jelly Unfiltered. Or check out our website, justjellypodcast.com. Thanks again for your support, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Just Jelly Unfiltered.